Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success. I'm your host, Wes Tankersley. Today, we're going to do bonus coverage of my interview with 100.3 The X's Jeremy Nicolato, aka Nick. You should know him as one half of the morning show with the 100.3 The X, The Morning After. It was a great interview that we had with him. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the podcast a little bit. We're trying to grow this thing, so if you would like to be a Last Question sponsor, please head on over to my Patreon account, which is linked in the bio. Make a donation, and we will continue to do the Last Question sponsor based on whoever has the highest donation. We moved it over to Patreon because it's a little bit easier to access, and we were having a little bit of difficulty with the PayPal situation. With any donation, you also get a Shaping Success sticker mailed to you. Before we get started, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a quote here that I have. It says, "The time is now to walk the walk. You got to believe in yourself and your goals more than anybody. Waste no more time. Get up and get some, because no one else is going to light the fire under your ass." And yes, there's a little bit of choice language in this episode, but that is because I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our guest that is going to be on tonight's live show. If you're listening to this on the podcast, it is October 1st. We're doing a live show tonight with Joshua Coburn, who has wrote a book that is called Shit That Needs to Be Said, so you can kick all the asses. And you'll see that Josh is just a little bit different than some of the other guests that I have on here, but he is very inspirational, very inspiring. He's a motivational speaker, and I'm excited to have him on there. Let's dive into the bonus coverage with Nick. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it. It's going to be kind of a shorter episode because I'm trying to get it kicked out here so that we have some content going and get a little bit of understanding of what's going on with me and how the show is growing. With growth, we've almost hit about 2,000 downloads. We're very close to that. We have an average of about 35 listeners each week, and then we're also picking up new ones who are listening to previous episodes. So if you haven't listened to the episode with Nick, go check it out. It's a great interview. It gives you a little bit of insight into the other half of The Morning After. We did an episode with Big J quite a while ago. So this was episode 32 with Nick, and Big J was 8. So we've interviewed 32 people on the show. It's been helping people to see that success is different for each individual and that you may find success in different ways. Fast cars, lots of money, all that stuff isn't always a successful situation for you. It may be helping someone. It may be reaching those small goals, whatever they are. But you know, one of the big things that Nick talked about was paying his dues in radio. He went in, he was from Wisconsin. He went in and decided that he was going to be a lawyer, went to school and realized, not for me. He talked about the Cub Scouts and how he had went in and saw a guy do a radio show. And if you look into radio, it's way different then than it is now. It's all digital. We have all these devices that help us to put our content out and record things and things like that. Before it was, I don't know how many of you know what tape or A-track or anything like that. They had to do reel-to-reel things like that. They didn't have a bunch of digital audio recording stuff. So he got his teeth cut, kind of in that situation, learning how to do things the old-fashioned way. One of the things that really helped him to get into radio was that he was willing to go in and work more than anyone else, go in and do things after hours, go in and learn how to teach himself how to do things, putting audition tapes in his boss's cubbyhole that he never saw, which this additionally led to his first radio gig, putting yourself out there doing way more than what anyone else is willing to do. And so a lot of times you see that these days where people will come into a situation and they'll think that it's just going to be given to me, or they think that it just got given to that person. Well, you have to pay your dues. You have to put in your time and whatever that is. And you want to get noticed, one of the biggest things to do is go in and do something that no one else wants to do. And you've seen this a lot. I've heard this a lot from many of the guests that I have. And it's always being willing to do more than what other people are doing. Always be willing to work harder than what other people are doing, because that's when you get noticed, when you are willing to put in more than other people, when you're willing to work harder than other people. And that's what Nick did, which ended up getting him a radio gig. He went to a broadcasting school, but didn't really get anything other than a certificate that said that he could do that. And he alluded to the fact that you don't have to go to school to be in radio, but it's not easy. He called it a fickle mistress, which was funny because that's a word or term that I'm going to start using. It just is something that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of pushing and things like that. So it's not easy. And you'll notice, I'm a podcaster. I've got 32 interviews. I've got about 51 episodes, and it's not the same thing. And he mentioned that, not in like a braggy way or a jerk way, but it's different. It's one of those things where they have a certain amount of time allotted. They have to put the radio show together. They have to deal with ratings. They have to work on those things. He started to chase those dreams, and he worked through, he had a couple radio gigs. He moved all over the country. He got fired a couple times. and then ended up in Boise as a program director. So basically, he's in charge of the whole radio station and making sure that the program is flowing and smooth. On top of those duties, on top of making sure that everything is happening in the radio programming part, he's the morning show host, which is a big thing. If you see kind of how that goes, they're in there at 5 o'clock every morning. They go till 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, then shifts over and he continues to work and stay there and work after that. They also have a bunch of stuff that they do after in addition to that. So concerts, things like that. I don't know if you've ever been to a concert, but usually it's a radio show that's putting that on. In this case, if it's a rock concert, you either see Nick or Big J, both at the radio or at the concert talking in front. They go to a lot of concerts, they push the radio station, and that's just kind of their life. That's what they do. At the X, he's creating this output of all those things. And he was quick to talk about how he was willing to help other people succeed and reach their goals. And it was awesome because he mentioned all the people that work there at the X and how hard they work. It wasn't just about him. It wasn't about how he created the success on his own. He couldn't do it without anyone else. And so I encourage you to think about that when you are trying to build something. Think about the support group that you have, the people around you who will help you build that whole thing, who will help you make that bigger. Are they supportive of you? Are they going around your back? Are they willing to work just as hard as you are? Because those are the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. So one of the last things he talked about was when I asked him what his definition of success was. And when I first listened to it, I was thinking about it and I was trying to decide because he said moving the goalpost. Moving the goalpost back to me is like, okay, let's take it further away. So a football field is 100 yards. It's actually a little bit longer than that when you add in the goals, right? But moving the goalpost back. And what he meant by that was he was calling the goalpost the goal. So making the goal more, adding to the goal. So once you reach that small goal, taking these small steps over and over again, add more to the goal, move the goalpost back. So the post that you're trying to reach, the place that you're trying to get, moving it back after you reach that goal. So never being complacent, not reaching that goalpost and just stopping. That's kind of the gist of the interview. You want to check it out. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. There's lots of big chunks in there. I just wanted to give you a quick hit, kind of a teaser on that. And then also talk to you a little bit about Josh Coburn, who is going to be on the show. That is tonight at 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, 6:30 Mountain Time. We're going to have Josh Coburn on here. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but he is a great motivational guy, and I'm excited to have him. So tune into that. If you're hearing this now on the podcast, it should be going up later in the week. It'll be an interesting conversation that I have with Josh and talk about how he shapes his success and how he's motivating other with his great book and his inspirational videos and things like that, because he does a lot of that stuff. One last thing before we touch off, I want to talk a little bit about some of the friends that I have met in this podcasting world. If you haven't listened to the current episode of the Hard Parking Podcast, I suggest you do, even if you just listen to the first 15 minutes. My friend Jay Finning, who is a guest of the show, talked a little bit about reaching out to people that you haven't talked to in a long time because you never know where they are. And it kind of hit home with me a little bit because I do have a couple friends that I don't talk to anymore. And he touched on a story of a friend that he had in high school who committed suicide, which is a real thing. There's a lot of people struggling right now, and you don't know if you're going to be able to reach out to those people and maybe change the situation for them. You don't know where they're at. You don't know mentally where they are. And if you haven't talked to them a long time, think about it. If it's someone who's been part of your life and you've just kind of grown apart and you hadn't had a chance to reach out to someone, shoot them a text, give them a Facebook message, however you communicate with them, just check in on them, see how they're doing. It's a big thing right now because we have a lot of people who are dealing with depression and things like that because they're at home and all they can think about is the things that aren't good that are going on, and our world sells negativity. So try and be that positive light right now for them. Anyway, like I said, if you could please do me a favor, like, share, and review the podcast. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any ideas for guests. I keep reaching out and I have multiple good guests. We're going to redo the interview with Andrew F. Carter, who didn't turn out very well because we had to kind of punt, but we'll get that back on track next week. This week is Josh Coburn. Until next time, I challenge you to find the shape of your success.